If there was one single thing that's helped you become better at speaking or communicating ideas, what would you say it is?
Frameworks.
Frameworks. What does that mean?
A lot of people picked up on this on Diary of a CEO. They want to know, what are frameworks? How do I develop frameworks? How do I get some frameworks into my business? How do I leverage these frameworks? So let's start with, what is a framework? A framework is an underlying structure that does the heavy lifting for any big idea. So for example, if you're going to have a pitch and you want to pitch a big idea in the world, you can use a pitching framework like the one I talked about, which was name, same, claim to fame, aim at a game. Or you can use a bigger pitching framework called Capstone, which is another framework that we developed. If you want to productize, you could use the framework called the ascending transaction model, which is how to turn your ideas into products. One of the ways that I've written my books is with a book writing framework. So I have a framework for how I plan and structure and write my books. So think of a framework as an underlying structure that helps do the heavy lifting for thinking about a big idea and helps you to structure your thinking. The more that you can leverage frameworks, the more you can be creative. The other way that you want to use frameworks is to develop frameworks for your business that are unique to your business. And today I want to share with you what are some of the ways we get you to think about how to develop your own unique intellectual property. So I'm going to walk you through step by step, how do you develop a framework that is unique to your business? So before we get into exactly how to do that, I want to share with you two little examples. There was a guy called Covey. Stephen Covey was a consultant who worked with small to medium-sized businesses who were connected to his church group. And what he noticed is that some of the people that he worked with were highly effective people and others were all talk and no action. So he ended up writing a list of the 7 habits that some of his clients were highly effective people and others were all talk. And he made a list called the 7 habits of highly effective people. So he made his list and then he did some research and he started to document and write about it. And he ended up writing the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It sold over 20 million copies and he built an entire consulting universe of frameworks, and he built a consulting business that grew to do over $400 million worth of revenue based upon the 7 habits of highly effective people and the corresponding frameworks. I'll give you another example. Simon Sinek, the author of the book Start With Why, he was working with some businesses in London and New York, and he discovered that some of his clients do really, really well when they have a strong purpose and when they can articulate their purpose, and other businesses were stuck because they didn't really have a strong sense of purpose. So he created a framework called the Start With Why framework. It's why, what, and how. And he wrote a book called Start With Why, and he put his frameworks in the book, and those ended up building a $50 million plus consulting business that Simon Sinek runs to this day. So we can see that these two guys were just normal people. They were normal business owners, normal consultants who stopped and they reflected and they documented their own unique frameworks, and then they became famous for those frameworks. So I wonder, do you have frameworks that you could develop that would make you famous and well known within your industry as well? Let's explore it. So in order to develop your own frameworks that are going to become your intellectual property, that are going to power the growth of your business, we need to start with a magic question. And here's the magic question. So the powerful question that you want to ask is, when did I do something special that got a measurable outcome? I can explain it step by step and it would benefit a certain type of person. When was the last time that that happened? Or what examples can you think of? Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about the last 5 years. And you say, okay, here we are in 2025, and let's go back to 2020. And you say, okay, let me look through my calendar, let me look through my photos, let me look through my examples and case studies and say, when did I do something special that got a measurable result? I can explain it step by step and it would benefit a certain type of person. You say, oh, I know. Last year, I did this thing that was pretty amazing and it fits all of that criteria. And there was the year before and I worked with that type of client and they got a great result, and I can explain it step by step and it would benefit other people. And I can think of another example here. And what you want to do is build a little timeline and come up with at least a few examples, right? So example 1, example 2, example 3, you want to get maybe 4 or 5 examples, and you want to keep asking yourself the question, when did I do something special that got a measurable outcome? I can explain it step by step and it would benefit a certain type of person if they knew that. And that's what you're looking for. So you'd start documenting your case studies. And once you've got your case studies, now you're going to come up with a framework. So what is going to be your framework? Well, the first and most easy one is a list or a set of steps. So if you say, what were the steps to getting that result? What did we do first, second, third, fourth? What are the key principles? What are the key processes? What is the shopping list? What are the steps that needed to happen in order to get that? So it's really cool to say the 3 steps, the 5 steps, the 7 steps, the 9 steps. right? Any of those, you've seen hundreds of these. You've probably read books that are 3, 4, 5 steps to getting a result, and you want to be able to come up with your list of steps that got the result. So the first framework you might come up with is just really simple, a set of steps or principles or processes for getting the desirable outcome. The second one is a diagram. So start with why was 3 concentric circles. There was why, what, and how. There are Venn diagrams where you have this mixed with this, mixed with this, right? So you end up with a Venn diagram. There are quadrants, right? So you might have heard of cash flow quadrant, or there are other quadrants. There's the personality quadrants, right? So you could come up with a Venn diagram. You could come up with a quadrant diagram. You could come up with some sort of concentric circles, right? That is a target. All sorts of ways that you can come up with diagrams that represent your framework. Number 3 is what we call a signature story. So a signature story is where you're going to tell the same story over and over again, and it's going to reveal a framework, or it's going to reveal a deeper truth, or it's going to have some sort of a structure to it that helps people to get a better decision. So you can have a checklist, a set of steps, or a process. You're going to have a diagram, and you're going to have a signature story. In fact, what you might do is blend all of that together to create your signature framework. Now, one of the things that you can really do if you want to ramp it up a little bit and make it even better is you can use alliteration. Alliteration is where you create a framework that is based on P's or S's or R's or C's or any of those kind of things, where you pick words that start with the same letter so it's more memorable. Or you can use an acronym. So your methodology could spell out a certain word that is relevant to what it is that you're doing. So alliterations and acronyms, these are things that make it really memorable. So getting the right diagram, getting the right list or set of steps, getting the right signature story, when you bring all of that together, you're starting to create your signature framework. Now, these are big business. When you start to look around the business landscape, you'll see that some of the biggest companies in the world have signature processes, signature diagrams, and signature stories that make up the value of their frameworks. You'll see businesses that do tens of millions or even hundreds of millions that essentially trade off the back of their signature frameworks. You can use these internal in your organization in order to get great results, and you don't reveal it to your customers, or you can reveal it to the marketplace and become famous for that framework, and people come to you because your business is the business that offers that framework. So ultimately, this becomes your intellectual property. This is one of the reasons why people might want to do business with you. And one of the things that I've noticed about entrepreneurs who are failing is they don't stop, they don't pause, they don't reflect, and they don't formalize their frameworks. They don't formalize their intellectual property. I really want to encourage you, pause, reflect, and document your intellectual property that could take the form of a signature framework that could really transform the way that your business shows up in the world. So if you want to know how we have helped thousands of companies to develop their own signature intellectual property and to commercialize that, come and join me with one of my workshops. I run a regular 90-minute workshop where we talk about the building blocks of the fast growth economy. We talk about intellectual property, media, data, software, and all of those intangible assets that are powering the growth of the fastest areas of the global economy. And if you want to get in on that, if you want to start developing more of your own intellectual property, a great place to start would be my 90-minute free workshop. So there'll be a link somewhere here to register, and I look forward to seeing you there. I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you are, give it a like, give it a subscribe, leave me a comment, and I look forward to seeing you soon.